this case, we have a federal law that says emergencies must be treated, medical emergencies must be treated. We have an Idaho near total abortion ban, and that puts those two laws in conflict. What happened in court today? What were the justices asking, and what did you learn from their questions?
You know, we all try to read the tea leaves from the justices' questions as best we can, and there are a few things that stood out. One, Idaho made really extreme arguments that there was no way that preemption would apply, and I think none of the justices bought that the idea that Idaho could do whatever it wanted in any case. I don't think any justice bought that. Idaho then started backtracking a little bit and suggesting there was no conflict, that Idaho law was basically the same as federal law. But if that was the case, everyone kept asking, why are we here? So it is clear that Idaho would like to have its case and eat it, cake and eat it too. And I don't know that it will get there. So that will be the question. If Idaho is there trying to say that there is no conflict and they would provide all of the life and health saving care that is required, I'm not sure there were a lot of justices that totally bought into the argument. The thing that was most notable to me, though, was the way several of the justices continued to make clear what an emergency looked like, what a medical emergency would look like for someone who was pregnant. Because I don't think the public has the level of awareness. And Idaho was really trying to use very generic language that sort of suggested it is no big deal. It's a pretty big deal if your life might be in jeopardy. It's a pretty big deal if you find yourself with sepsis. It's a pretty big deal if you might, as a result of not getting care, lose your reproductive organs. Those are the types of stories that we have seen pop up around the country in the wake of the Dobbs decision. And if the Idaho ban is allowed to continue to be into effect, it will only lead more and more states to accelerate these really cruel laws. Right now in Idaho, they're having to helicopter people out of the state to get care. That's not care at all.
You said that there were questions around defining what an emergency is, and I'm wondering, as we look at the bench, we have male justices and female justices. Some of those female justices have children. I'm wondering, did you notice a gender divide in how the justices approached this issue and asked their questions?
Well, from the moment Idaho began to present its case, one of the things that was noticeable was the early questioning, and you might call it a hot bench, was coming from Justices Jackson, Kagan, and Sotomayor. They were very clear and sharp around it. I thought it was important not to erase the really serious patient experience, and so I think people are noting that. I think people are also noting that Justice Barrett was also really pushing the Idaho solicitor to be more specific about whether the range of care that EMTALA, the federal statute, would require would be available under Idaho law. He kept jumping back and forth, and I think she wanted to hear that the range of life-saving care would actually be available. You saw a more restraint from many of the male justices, and I think that was noted. I think it was really noted, though, frankly, that Justice Alito in particular seemed kind of unconcerned about the harm that is occurring around the country. Every person I talk to, when I tell them that this is even a case before the Supreme Court, especially those who have had pregnancies, they are stunned. They remember how much we feared having those types of outcomes. The idea that you couldn't guarantee that you would get care at a hospital if you would need it is really terrifying to most people I know who've been pregnant. And so this sort of like yada, yada, yada disregard that you saw from, at least one of the justices, I actually think it was really telling and pointed. It was noticed.